Okay. All right, very good. Good morning, everyone. We are live. This is Wednesday, October 23rd. This is our 10 a.m. regular Board of Commissioners meeting. I will call this meeting to order. Commissioner Hall and myself establishing a quorum. Commissioner Jacobson is excused today. We have no recognitions and proclamations, but I do need to just get some clarity here from the team. I know we have what appears to be a revised agenda this morning. I was working from the agenda that was online yesterday. And I think maybe there were some technical difficulties. I'm not completely sure, but Administrator Johnson, is the one online pretty locked as the one where?
The newest one is, I think the most substantial change, there's a removal of an item for the legalization of a road, and we moved public comment.
Oh, okay, we did. Okay, and just for reference, I noticed some items were removed from yesterday afternoon. And just to be clear,
So we had one that deals with the contract for the animal shelter sewer alignment, and
Okay.
we were still working that, and we didn't get a signature back in time
Okay.
from the company. It's not that that there's any problem with time. We just didn't get it for this agenda. It will be on the next one. And it will be on consent because it was $12,000, so it's well below that
so
requirement.
we also pulled the resolution on FEMA, it looks like, right?
No, it got moved.
Oh, it got moved. And, okay, and then we also removed the bargaining agreement, is that correct?
No.
It's still there?
So do you have the correct one in front of you, or do you need a copy printed out?
I printed one at about 9:30, 9:40. Okay, well, I'll just go through it as it's online. And yeah, I understand technical difficulties, stuff happens. And because we have a lot of information. Okay, so we move into no recognitions and proclamations. We move into adoption of the consent calendar. Commissioner Hall, anything you want to highlight or?
No, Chair Member, I would move for adoption of today's consent calendar as presented.
Okay, before I move on that, Chair Hall, I do not want to approve or have my signature on the minutes of 10-2. So I would abstain from signing those. And then the only other few items I just have to highlight on the consent calendar. There are a few items I think where you have signed for me, maybe in my absence, but my text chair is underneath those signatures. So I just wanted to make a note of those. I know I was out of the office, so I can provide a list if we need to, but I just noted a few exceptions there. So thank you for that. Other than that, I would second your motion with that exception on the minutes. Thank you.
Chair Miller, if I may, again, if we turn to page 2 of 4 under consent, there is port number 3 on the project timeline. Again, number 33, report number 3, project timeline for the animal shelter construction.
Okay.
And on that report, you might note the depth of which we had to excavate on this facility. And I think we should bring that to the attention
Yeah, please do.
of our community, because people think it's real easy to build facilities. And you find out real quickly as you go through geotech work and surveying and analysis, compactable soil studies, that it is not the easiest thing on the face of the earth to perform. And so what you see are these photographs that we have. There's a good example there of the depth of which we had to go through in order to get to compactable soils. Now, again, as I've said before, this is a matter of physics. So you have to compact the soil. Most of what you see there in the south end of Walport is fill that came from the high school. And that's what you're looking at those lighter colored soils on the top. That was all pushed to the south or deposited from the construction of the high school. So we had to go in and remove at least 20 feet. Yeah, there you see it. 20 feet of soil. And then we had to backfill in what's called lifts. And that was a crushed concrete. Crushed concrete would be brought in, and then you see that it would be rolled. That's where it's at today. Then there'll be a final compaction of construction related material. And all along, while we're doing this, this was inspected. There's the current timeline. We're still on time, still on schedule. But we wanted to be able to share with the community, if you haven't been out to the site, what was going on out there, because people said they couldn't see anything going on. And I said, yeah, you're about 20 to 25 feet under the surface of the soil. So that's the reason why you couldn't see anything going on. But that gives you a good indication. That has now subsequently been done. Footings are being put in and between now and the first week of November. And then we go into foundation. And
Awesome.
then look out for there. We're going to go up quick.
That's great. Thanks for highlighting that.
Mr. Chair, may I ask council a
Yeah.
procedural question?
Of course.
Okay, Council Yule, since Chair Miller indicated he does not wish to approve the minutes of the October 2nd meeting, we don't have two votes for that in Commissioner Jacobson's absence, so would we bring this back at
Next one.
next meeting and then approve everything here except for those minutes?
Okay, very good. Okay, thank you, Administrator Johnson, Commissioner Hall, for clarity. All right, so through execution, we're into public hearing. Okay,
Mr. Chair, point of order, we didn't vote on the consent. calendar.
so yes, let's again make a motion. You did, I seconded it, and all in favor, please say aye. Okay. No public hearing. Looks like we've got public comment. We moved that up. Okay. So do we have anybody in the room that would like to provide public comment today?
Anna Cooper?
Anna, are you here? Hmm.
We've also got Billy Joseph.
I'm actually on your agenda.
Oh,
I don't wanna-
I see. Okay, Billy. Okay, if you are online with us, use the raised hand. That helps us identify you for public comment.
Does not look like it, Chair.
Okay, anything written?
We do have written comment. I have not attached to the agenda yet.
Okay,
Um,
yeah, thanks, Ken.
Sorry.
Hmm.
Sorry, Tommy.
we
Oh,
have-
we're right in it, so. Yeah, no, just hang out just a sec. We're looking at our written comment.
A written comment regarding the Johnson Street Bridge. And then we've got two written comments from Cynthia George, one regarding the Brown Park plans and the other one about clear cutting.
Okay. Okay, very good. So that's our written, Kenneth will get that online later. And so, yes, please make sure to sign in when you're done, and just tell us who you are.
She did.
Oh, she did,
I'm
okay.
sorry, you guys usually do this so much later. I was watching online.
Yes, this, Good morning.
Hi, good morning.
Hi.
I'm speaking as a private citizen. Commissioner Miller, you have many Lincoln County supporters. We may not be as loud as some, but we are here. We support you because we know you care, you are kind, you are thoughtful, and you prioritize good communication, gathering input, and working together for the common good. We value your qualities as a leader, especially your honesty, your integrity, and your bravery. We know you are doing your best to figure things out and make sure things are done right. Your goal of ethical, transparent government is absolutely worth pursuing. So keep fighting the good fight. We support you. Thank you.
Well, thank you very much, Shannon. Okay, anyone else? All right, so we're through public comment. And we move on to decision and action. We're at item A. This is the second reading of ordinance number 536 related to land use planning, amending the comprehensive plan and zone change from AC to Public Parks Master Plan, adoption of Brown Park Master Plan, and declaring an emergency. Pretty routine, huh?
Thank you for reading the title. Kristen Newell, County Council. Board, would you like the full text or title only?
Title only sounds fine.
As Commissioner Miller indicated, this is related to land use planning, amending the comprehensive plan and zone change from AC to Public Parks Master Plan, adoption of the Brown Park Master Plan, and declaring an emergency. Board, this came before you originally for a public hearing on October 2nd. Planning has already amended the comprehensive plan that's attached as an exhibit to this ordinance. So this is just the second reading, and it's the next step is to actually put this in place in our code. Any questions?
No questions for me.
Okay.
How about you? Nope. Okay. We move to item B, resolution. Oh, yes. Thank you, Commissioner Hall. Do we have a motion then?
Yes, Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt ordinance 536 related to land use planning, amending the comp plan and zone change from AC to Public Parks Master Plan, adoption of Brown Park Master Plan, and declaring an emergency.
Okay, I will second that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving to B, resolution regarding the adoption of pre-implementation compliance measures to comply with FEMA floodplain rules. Anyone leading this?
Do you have the resolution?
Presented to us previously.
Yeah, I don't have the resolution. Yeah.
It's online. Let's take a quick look here. Let me scroll to it.
So, question or observation, it appears to be to me that this reflects
It's the next,
conversation we had during and following our board workshop on this. And
correct.
At this point, we're essentially committing ourselves to continuing to develop a plan, but
So the model ordinance is going to be presented. That would be the next step. And then we would put it in place in December and notify FEMA that we actually put together a model ordinance. So there's two routes that we could go, and we've opted to go with the model ordinance.
so, but at this stage, adopting this, it almost feels like we're getting engaged to be engaged.
Yeah, no, we have to, this is the next step we need to take.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with this. I looked at this yesterday as well, so, okay,
Can we get a motion?
yeah, let's have a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt the proposed resolution regarding adoption of pre-implementation compliance measures to comply with FEMA floodplain rules.
And I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay. Bear with me as I jump back into item C, decision and action, order re-legalization of a portion of Ocean View Drive, County Road 813.
Thank you, Commissioners. So this is before you as the proposed order. Public Works submitted their staff report We had a public hearing that started in August. It was continued to our September 2nd meeting. We did not have any objections to the proposed legalization, so there's none in the record. We did work with the Parks and Rec Department. They provided a letter of support for the legalization, and so this would be just legalizing a portion of the Ocean View Drive as presented in the order. And this did start back in 2017 originally.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I was looking at that packet from the last meeting, 533 pages, and I saw the minutes in there from 2017. So it's quite a description. If you take a look at it, it just goes and goes. So do we have a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt this order regarding the legalization of a portion of Ocean View Drive, which is County Road 813.
All right, I'll second that motion. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Okay, so that moves us out of decision and action, and we get into discussion and information. Item A is an overview of redevelopment areas, City of Newport. Derek Tokos is with us today, as well as, we'll find out, our Community Development Director for the City of Newport. And yes, please introduce yourselves.
My name is Anna Iaukea. I'm the Urban Renewal Project Manager for the city.
Excellent.
Thank you. Derek Tokos. I'm the City of Newport's Community Development Director.
Good to see you.
Yeah, it's nice to see you.
Yeah,
And-
yeah. Well, please begin.
Well, thank you for giving us a few minutes today, Chair Miller, Commissioner Hall. We wanted to just give you a little bit of update on kind of where things stand with Newport Urban Renewal. You could kind of, there are a number of projects that are ongoing, and some will be interfacing with work that the county will be doing, and we'll touch on those as we go along. The other thing is, I'll just start real quick. You know, I have been with the city as its community development director now for 15 years, and I've been engaged in urban renewal work through that period of time. And so I'll be touching on some stuff that happened a while ago, but it does tend to build upon itself, and these districts do exist for an extended period of time, and that's intentional because it takes time for that increment to build up so that you can actually do projects. So again, what is urban renewal? Just for the benefit of the public, because it's fairly cryptic to a lot of people. It's not a new tax. I will emphasize that, not a new tax. Urban renewal, what it is when an urban renewal district is put together with the consent of the various taxing entities. Each of the taxing entities in that area give up a little bit of what they would otherwise collect in future years, and that gets directed to urban renewal for use to implement specific projects that are on specific plans. We have 3 urban renewal districts and corresponding plans. The oldest is South Beach. That was started in 1983. So talk about long. I haven't been with the city that long. And that one will actually be closing to new projects at the end of calendar year 2025 and will officially close in 2027, meaning that the increment will be released back to the taxing entities for the fiscal year 27-28 period. We also have Northside, which was put in place in 2015, and we have McLean Point, a teeny tiny one over by the port international terminal, and that was also put in place in 2015. So why would taxing entities be crazy enough to give up a little bit of their increment over the years? There's a really good reason for that. It's because if we do good urban renewal investments, it's a catalyst for economic development and new development that goes on the tax rolls. And so the expectation from all of those that are contributing funds is that we have a healthier economic base at the end of the day than we would have otherwise had we not engaged in urban renewal activities. And it's been fairly successful in Newport. I mean, the original Newport Urban Renewal District, which encompassed Night Beach and the Bayfront and City Center and other areas, that was closed in 2010. But you know, some of those investments are, they're still out there. I mean, you've got the all of the streetscaping improvements in Night Beach, Performing Arts Center, Visual Arts Center, Bayfront, the boardwalks, and then there's all the stuff you don't see, which is underneath the street, the upsizing of water mains and wastewater mains so that, our fish processing plants have the water flow they need to be able to effectively do their business. And so you have a bit of both. So I'm going to touch on really kind of what's left. Ann and I are going to touch on what's left in South Beach, what we have going on the north side, because we do have a number of projects there now. And then very briefly on McLean Point. So in South Beach, we are working on our last phase of projects down there. This fiscal year, we're pulling in about 6.7 million to try to wrap up these projects. This last phase totals about 9 million. Some of that had already been directed to the projects in past fiscal years. And these projects will be committed by the end of 2025. But a number of them, we're talking about them being bid by the end of 2025. And so they'll be fully funded bid, but the construction will happen in 26, and some of them will probably get out into 27. So we have a number of projects. One is we've got one, Anna, I'd like you to go ahead. Why don't you go ahead and talk about the ones you're working on first, and I'll pick up the balance of them.
So I started with the city just a little over a year ago. And so my focus has been these projects in South Beach because the district is sunsetting at the end of 2025. So although I am doing some work in city center, my focus has been to implement 8 priority projects that were identified in the South Beach refinement plan. That planning process concluded about 3 years ago. And based on some different criteria, there were 8 projects identified to be priority projects. The first of those in the plan was to prepare that 35th Street development site in South Beach, the former South Beach Church site, get that ready for redevelopment. That site has now been cleared of all the buildings and is ready for redevelopment. The city did go out with a request for proposals to look for a developer for that. That process was not successful. And so the city is pursuing other options, potentially working with a commercial real estate broker to look at marketing that site for redevelopment. But that site is ready. Another project I'm working on is out at the airport. We're starting design on a large on-site septic system that will improve the system out there and get that area ready for potential redevelopment as well.
A replacement or?
It'll be a new system, and there's several older systems out there operating independently, and those will be eventually decommissioned and people will be hooked up to this new system. It'll serve 5 areas out at the airport.
Wow.
Yeah, the beauty of it is we're able to place that in between the runways because it's all subsurface work in an area where you really couldn't do anything else between those runways. We did an alternatives analysis to see whether or not we could realistically extend city sewer down that far, and we couldn't come up with an option that was viable. So our alternative to support economic development at the airport is to go with a large septic system, and that's what she's working on.
Yeah, so design is starting soon. We've already initiated the permitting process with DEQ. Site evaluation process was completed. They've approved that site. So we'll re-engage with DEQ once we have design, probably 30% design, we'll re-engage for the next permit on that. Also some coordination with FAA on that. So that's moving forward. Another project down there is the idea was to improve the fire suppression capability at the airport. And so we're looking, as part of our water system master planning process, we're looking at ways to automate the intertie with the Seal Rock Water District. So that's the engineering team doing the water system master planning is looking at options for that. We hope to have we should have an idea of what we want to do down there by next summer in terms of what we want to implement. So part of that master planning schedule. Another project is installing a redundant water pipeline under Yaquina Bay. So we release a request for qualifications on October 14th. We're looking for an engineering team. We're pursuing a design build approach on that. Statements of qualifications are due November 12th. So we'll then move with a short list to issue a request for proposals for that.
Yeah, and I would just touch on that. That's a very important resiliency project for us. The existing water main that serves all of South Beach was constructed in the mid-70s, and it has been damaged in the past. And it's very difficult for the city to be able to provide users down there with the water they need when that happens, even given the agreements we have in place with Seal Rock to kind of backfill us. It's just a significant impact. So to have a second water main gives us a lot more flexibility and peace of mind in terms of being able to serve residents and businesses in South Beach.
Mr. Tokos, I feel like I recall FEMA doing an assessment post-distant tsunami on that water line. I don't know. I just remember them all over the place, but
Mhm.
that's a big project.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Another project that's ongoing right now in South Beach is a placemaking project, which involves some landscaping and public art and putting in gateways down there. Some of you may have, there were 2 public meetings. I don't know if any of the commissioners attended either of those, but we had public meeting in July and one in September to get public input on conceptual designs for that. So we're now refining those designs and coming up with rough order of magnitude cost.
Could you
estimates.
just describe a little placemaking for us?
So we're looking at 2 different gateways. One, just as you get off of the bridge, something that, welcomes people into South Beach. Also down further, right past where Ferry Slip Road used to hit Highway 101, where that is now closed up. We're looking at another area right there as a gateway. And then all along Ferry Slip Road, we're looking to improve the landscaping along there.
Interesting.
And installation of some public art and
Walkability.
yeah, walkability.
Cool.
Yeah, so that's in the design
Mm.
phase as well. And we've had good participation at the public meetings, some good input. Essentially, for the most part, people support the project.
Nice.
So that's kind of a fun one. One that's just starting to kick off right now is another project down in South Beach that looks to enhance the mobility for cyclists and pedestrians through fixing up segments of the path that kind of has some patchy areas. And so we're kicking off with a feasibility analysis. The South Beach Refinement Plan looked at 11 different potential segments where we could kind of finish up these pathways. And so we're doing a feasibility analysis on those different segments. And then once we see the results of that, we'll determine which ones to carry through to design. There were, I believe, 6 of them were identified as priority in the refinement plan, but we may be able to build some other ones. So we're looking at the feasibility of those physical constraints, permitting constraints, things like that. And then we can decide which ones.
Yeah, just to help you visualize it, in South Beach, for example, one of those gaps would be on 40th as you go up to Wilder, where you have a multi-use path that comes down the hill down 40th, but stops at basically the Tryon piece there that's on the south side. And so we would like to get that extended down so it connects with the multi-use pathway on Ash Street so that you have a continuous multi-use path from the Wilder development all the way to the Hatfield campus without anybody having to go to US 101. I mean, we've got 77 units of student housing under construction right now up in Wilder. We do expect a fair amount of traffic using that pathway. We're also looking at what we can do to get some pedestrian amenities in on Southeast 35th as it goes out to Idaho Point. We expect to see some additional multifamily development down there and additional density coming in down there. And the residents down there deserve to have a safe way to walk along that roadway to get into areas where they're going to have services. The 35th and 101 property, I want to emphasize, we are going with a commercial broker, but our council wants to make sure that whatever the end use is on that site, right there at the newly placed signal there at 35th and 101, is something that will provide services to the community. So folks that live and work in South Beach have some options other than going over the bridge. So that's a key point of emphasis.
One of the last projects I'm working on down there is we're in the kind of initial planning stages of it, is looking at potentially putting another signal in at 40th Street. So I think the traffic warrant analysis is wrapping up. Is that-
No, we're working with Lancaster Engineering, going through what they call an intersection control evaluation. We have to meet state rules. There has to be enough side street traffic they got about 8 different warrants we have to kind of walk through. But it's looking promising. We've got the funds reserved to get that intersection designed at that location. One thing that's helping us is the level of development we're seeing up in the Wilder area. In addition to the student housing I'm talking about here, we also have the South Beach Church that's under construction. We just approved the next phase of Wilder, which involves another 75 units, some of it single family, some of it multifamily. And we have Bimart that's coming in with a Cascade Farm store on the northeast corner of 40th and 101. On that property, we used to see the U-Hauls parked, kind of sandwiched between 101, 40th, and Ash Street. That's a 30,000 square foot building. Now they'll be taking access off of Ash Street, but again, you can see that's quite a bit of additional activity down there, and that helps us make our case with the state.
A couple other projects going on down there. Our engineering department is overseeing this, but it is an urban renewal funded project, is some more utility undergrounding in South Beach, and that's underway. The final design plans, I think, were just received by engineering, so they'll be working on implementing that. We are also working with the South Beach Church folks on a trail alignment at the end of Southeast Chestnut Street. So we're looking at a trail that will kind of weave around and up into the church property, which will be for public use. So I think a preliminary trail alignment has been mapped out, but we're working on that with the church. And one other, Derek will talk about this, but there's we're looking at annexing some unincorporated properties in South Beach.
Yeah, we have a project that we're firing up, which will basically look to annex the remaining properties that are surrounded by the city limits. So an island annexation, if you want to think of it that way. It's important for us so that we can kind of normalize public services to those areas, and we're going to try to sweeten the pot a little bit by providing a rebate program for those that do get annexed to help offset some of the cost of connecting to the city's sewer system. A lot of those properties down there are served off septic systems or holding tanks because you didn't have sewer service. We have extended that service now down to 50th, but you still have a lot of storage type uses, uses that don't generate a lot of effluent and need to connect to a sewer system, I guess is what I'm saying. So that'll be a project where we just fired up. Moving north side, and I know you got a lot of stuff on your calendar, but I want to touch on a few projects on the north side. One, we're going into design on a safe routes project on Harney that will be paired with a state signal project at 20th and Harney more. So what we'll be doing, our project will get a new sidewalk in along Harney between US 20 and 3rd Street, so that awkward setup out there right now with the rolled asphalt curb that kind of defines a walkway, that's going to go away. We're going to actually have a proper sidewalk there and bike lanes. And then we're going to do some ADA work on the ramps as you extend north up to 7th and Harney. And the bike lanes up there, I believe we're going to stripe those in as buffered bike lanes, probably a little more separation where we can between cyclists and those that are driving. Then that project, our hope is to get that under construction next year. So we're working right into design right now. And then the state will bid the signal work where they're going to modernize the intersection at 20th and more in 26. That'll go under construction in 27. We've also funded pavement overlays for 1st, 2nd, Fogarty, and Grant between US 20 and 3rd Street. Between those two projects, we're trying to set up the infrastructure for your commons work, which I know you guys are going to want to get the commons project going here before too much longer. And, those are all of the points of access generally from that site to the highway. We've also funded, we're actually in the process of extending Big Street up in Agate Beach. Agate Beach is part of the North Side Urban Renewal District. It's the only real residential component of the North Side District. It was brought in because it's basically underserved in terms of its infrastructure. Never had those types of investments, was brought in as a rural residential area and has meant much of that same feel to it still. So we'll be paving 55th Street, which will make a lot of people happy because that gravel street is it's like you're driving on the moon often with the potholes up there. So we're going to get that paved. We also have funding for some work at the intersection of 101 and 57th. We've had some issues up by the cinema, just some awkward alignment of intersections that we're going to address there. One last project on North Side, and this goes back down to US 20, that'll be going under construction here relatively soon, is a new rapid flashing beacon at Eads and US 20. Safety improvement for those have to cross that roadway. So lastly, McLean Point. That was a teeny tiny little district with one project in mind, which is to put a wastewater lift station there next to the Port International Terminal so that you could actually have more intense use of the industrial property that's there next to the Northwest Natural Tank and could also serve future residential development on the hillside. That district was always going to be development driven. And so it required the Hall family or Rondis, who owns that industrial property, to move forward with projects. That hasn't moved forward as quickly as we would have liked. And so the increment there that we've been able to collect is relatively small. So that one may have to be rethought in the future or amended to actually work properly. At this time, though, I can say that there are 4 new warehouse buildings that the Hall family are looking to construct. They're under plan review right now. So it's progress. It's just been moving a little bit slower than we would have hoped.
Yeah. We dug the mound down quite a bit. So does that conclude essentially?
That's
Wow. That's a
our
lot of
information
activity.
dump. We have information at the City of Newport Community Development Department. We have a section dedicated to urban renewal that has summary sheets.
Thank you for that. Okay.
With the amount of funding that's dedicated to certain projects, and we're always happy to talk about any project we have that's going on, that particularly when it interfaces county activities.
Well, yeah, and kind of my question too, is there that dedicated section on your website that would give us a lot of what you've described today, or?
Yeah, you'd have that information, or at least enough of it that would get you thinking. And if you needed more, you could reach out to us. I guess I would be remiss. There's one last thing. We are in the process of working through a city center revitalization planning effort. Administrator Johnson's involved with that as your representative. That's helping us kind of rethink how US 101 works through the city center area to help facilitate or catalyze with investment in that streetscape. We might be able to catalyze some reinvestment in the city center area, which has really been struggling.
Yeah, needed. Thank you. Commissioner Hall, any thoughts?
Not right now. Appreciate the presentation.
Yeah, Administrator Johnson, anything popping in your mind?
Well, I'd like to thank that the city of Newport, 3 tax increment districts is quite a lift. And so to that end, my compliments on that ability just to do the paperwork to fulfill the requirements associated with tax increment on an annual basis is not an easy venture. So we are looking real closely at the Central City area. One of the concerns that I've had, and it is only a discussion point, is that as we look at widths, I've got buses that run through.
Yeah.
And one of my concerns is that our bus width is maybe bigger than what proposals are that we're discussing. And as you all know, in county council is always on me, is to make sure that we have sized buses for the width of lanes that we operate in. And this may sound a little humorous, but we have bought over the years buses that may be sometimes larger than the lanes we operate on. And one of the key concerns that I always have is that we operate a bus that is derived for the geography that we work. Unlike an urban bus, we have something that's, how should I say, much more robust.
Mm.
And when it gets into a more urban setting, we have very wide mirrors for the purposes of driver safety and passenger safety. And sometimes those extend even beyond the lanes of which we work. So this is one of the things I'm looking at is in the future as we move forward.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Anna. Nice to meet you. Good to see you today, and we appreciate the update.
Thank you
Okay.
again.
All right. Lot going on there. Okay, I'm moving back to the agenda here to see what's next. And we are moving into item B of discussion and information. I think Billy Joe Smith is going to join us from the Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance, LCWSA, and talk about the Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance.
Right, thank you.
Red, there you go. Make sure
I
it's red.
turned it off.
Oh.
Clearing my
Oh,
throat.
very good.
Oh,
Oh, okay.
My red
Good
light
morning.
looks like it's on.
Yes, make sure it's
All right.
on, yes.
Good morning, Chairman Miller, Council Commissioner Hall, and Administrator Johnson. I haven't met you before. Council Euro, it's been a long time since we worked together. It's good to be here, and I'm happy to share this information with you and whomever might be listening today. We're in the process of beginning the Lincoln County Water Systems Alliance, and would really need the county to be a piece of it. I'll explain what it is. The alliance is stemming from a project, the Mid-Coast Water Planning Partnership that's been going on for 8 years in Lincoln County. And the things that the alliance is addressing are high priority pieces of their action plan that was developed. And so we are taking those and making them happen is basically what's happening. And we're dealing with water systems, those systems that supply water for human use. And of course, to look at that, we also need to look at and are very definitely including the environments that those water systems are fed by. That is in a piece of it. We would like, and we're getting this to happen, I think, participation from all the Lincoln County cities. Currently, we have all but 2 that have signed the resolution to become members, and those 2 are in the process. We've presented to one of them, and then their next meeting, they'll be looking at a resolution to officially become members. And Walport's the one that we've met with their city manager, and we're going to be going to their council again at their next meeting. So we're making progress there. Water districts, we're getting ready to start looking at those. We'll be first going to the major water districts, but we're also including the little ones, not in quite the same way in terms of the surveying that will be done and the actual data collection, but we will be including them in the alliance and looking at how they can also be receiving water. And by the way, I just need to read the mission because we're looking at a 50-year plan here. This is futures planning. And the reason being that we already are having shortages, but climate change is going to increase those shortages. It's showing that our surface waters are where we get our water. Lincoln County does not have a great deal of groundwater. And even our springs are fed by our rainfall and our runoff. And that is projected to change. And as that changes, our water is going to decrease. So we're looking at a 50-year plan so we don't get caught up like some of the other parts of the Oregon and the country have been with just not having enough water for our residences, but also our businesses and our other water users. So our goal is to review options, develop a 50-year plan, secure funding, and establish water supply and distribution systems, which will provide long-term water security for our entire county while achieving significant protections for our river streams and watersheds. So that's kind of the statement that pulls all that together. In addition to the cities and water districts, the Confederated Tribes of the Siletz Indians has joined the alliance. Their a tribal council approved it, and they were very excited about it. So this is very, very cool. We need you, and there will also be some support from conservation and water organizations and some of those state agencies. This has been the involvement with the Mid-Coast Water Planning Partnership has been very positive in relation to that because those state agency people are on that group. And I've been working with them since they started 8 years ago. So their input will be something that we can also have for our group. So I've kind of told you about that. One of the reasons that we're joining together rather than each little city, each little water district trying to develop the sources and the infrastructure and get the data they need for those sources and for that infrastructure, it's really difficult. The rural areas particularly, but our small cities are struggling with that. And the costs for infrastructure particularly are something they can't really deal with. And they don't have the influence and the personnel to actually deal with funding sources at larger levels and influence those. But when we join together and have a regional plan, then that's more successful because they can say, we're a part of a regional plan. And even the organization can be involved in applications that make sure all of these areas have the things they need. So this is a big piece of it. Do you all have this on your, you've got that?
We
Okay,
do.
so
Yes.
on the back side of our introduction sheet, we tried to make this concise as possible, but yet include as much information as we thought you would need. We have 4 phases for this process. And the first one, phase 1, and I just kind of need to say, we're looking at this like a futures planning kind of process that where you look, what are all your possibilities? But then you have to take those, you don't just say, oh, well, I like that possibility, so let's do that one. You don't do that. You look at all the possibilities and then you evaluate those possibilities and you come up with what's really feasible, what's reasonable to do, what's viable to do. And then you get to your preferences. Okay, of these viable choices, these are the ones that we think will work better for us. And then you implement those. So that's kind of the process that we have in these phases. And phase 1 is really gathering data and organizing that data so that we can discover what is really viable, what is really feasible. And we have been so fortunate. As a matter of fact, I started this project 2 years ago, but there was not a way to do phase 1 well. It's just not something you can hand to an engineering firm because they have the things they do and that's what they look at. But we were very fortunate to, and I was fortunate to know Dr. Kenneth Williamson, who is from Yachats. He's there, they live there part of the year. He is the former chair of engineering for OSU. He has been the director and has just retired recently of the Clean Water Resources, which was all of the water supply towns along the Tualatin and for the Tualatin River watershed. And I was talking with him. I said, who can we get to do this? How can we really make that happen? And he said, the thing will be to go to the Water Resources Institute at OSU and look at OSU. So he got us set up. We had 2 meetings at OSU, attended by chair of many different departments at OSU. And they loved the idea of tackling this project because it's not only collecting data and making decisions, they're going to make a decision-making platform. It's a gigantic computer program where they include all their possibilities. And for each of those possibilities, they have all the data that they can do. And they're also including not just the scientific data, but economic information and environmental information. They've got sociologists on this group as well as engineers and those people who could actually design an incredible computer platform to help us analyze this data. Ken had used a platform that they developed at Clean Water Resources. And then they're looking at expanding that exponentially. So this is a huge project. They're going to be analyzing all our watersheds. They're going to be looking at possible technological improvements that could go. How can we do the water storage? Is desalination using some of the wave energy that's been investigated here a possibility? They're going to be looking at all kinds of things because we're looking at 50-year plan and the possibility that those water systems we have right now are not going to make it. So this is exciting. So they are taking on phase one. They've already, that's why we're kind of catching up almost because until we knew we could actually do this, we weren't trying to form an organization because it just wouldn't have been possible. But they've already applied for and received grant through OSU for initiation of the project. So they're going, they're moving on and getting ready to do this. They intend to, after this initiation process or even during it, they will be applying for grant funding. And they're pretty positive about getting a grant through National Science Foundation. They have a grant program that looks at community tie-ins, and that's what this is. So they just fit that perfectly. And so they're looking at a grant of about $2 million for over 2 years that will follow this initial initiation grant that they've done.
And Billy Joe, we're
yes.
just talking about phase one,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Phase two is where they bring us their results. And it tell us the viable options. These are, and those options will be kind of rated, you know, some will be better than others. And the critical thing is that they work out options that will help all of us throughout the county, throughout the region. It's not just, we're not going to ignore the little people or the little groups either. They want to make sure that we work out options for everyone. And so they bring us those options, and then the LCWSA members will decide what goes into the 50-year plan. So, and they're retaining, we're making sure that our members realize if there's something in that plan that's for their district or city, they can say no. They will still have the right to say no and hope they come up with something else for their city. But we're not taking away the rights of any of our member organizations, cities, entities. But they can also, you know, they can do things that aren't on the plan as well. It's not a limiting thing, but it is a plan that should assure us to have water for at least the next 50 years. And anyway, that's what phase three is actually deciding what's going into the plan that would form the plan. And then phases 3 and 4 are making it happen. Coordinating to secure funding and to realize the plan. There will have to be some decisions made there. What we're thinking is by that time, I think this organization is going to need a official coordinator that I think a paid part-time coordinator will be important to keep it together, because it's at this point that there was an old coalition in Lincoln County in the late 90s and early 2000s that did put together some ideas and some plans. And I think all the cities and the larger water districts were included. Depot Bay was not, but the rest of them did join it. And it just sort of fell apart. for unknown reasons, but they didn't have that kind of organization where there was somebody keeping them moving and saying, okay, we need to make this, we need to apply for this now, and that sort of thing. And this is going to have a timeline because it's 50 years we're talking about here. So that is probably a point where by that time we will need a full-time coordinator or a part-time coordinator. And we're working out how would that be paid, because the cities are all saying, we don't have any money for, you know how that goes. And they're right. Their budgets are stretched. But our suggestion there is, and this is just a suggestion, but you'll be able to, we're talking about water bills here. People that are buying your water, and with a simple, as much as a 50-cent per month planning fee on water bills would more than cover having covering a coordinator. That wouldn't have to be a grant, because we want this to be a position that's going to be ongoing, because if you get a grant, then that runs out, and then what happens? So that is a piece for, particularly when we get to phases 3 and 4. Phase 4 is actually doing it, having your engineering and drawing and all the good things that Newport folks were just talking about, making it happen, which we didn't want to stop with the plan. We don't want the plan to go on the shelf. We want the plan to go on. So that's what this is all about. And we're hoping, we have are signing the people up right now with a resolution. I think you've gotten a copy of the one that we are using with the cities. It may need to be adapted a little bit for you. That will be followed up with an actual IGA, but we didn't feel comfortable producing the IGA until we actually had the group organized as with the members. And we want more input from members as to, is this what you want to do? Is you're going to approve this legal document? The IGAs can be, of course, just about the same as what our little resolution is, because there's a level of IGA that's just a group of people getting together for a common cause. Or there's the IGA level, which goes along with the state statute that actually creates a non-governmental entity. And that one, I think, will be important to have by the time we get to phases 3 and 4 again, because at that point, people are going to be looking at funding lots of grants and applications and contracts and all that sort of thing, and that will be important. So we are looking at bringing an IGA forward, but we want to get our membership organized and let them have a lot of say in what's in that IGA.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the reason we're going resolution, then IGA. But we've included in the resolution a lot of things that the IGA will include as well. Just and that's changed over time, as people suggest. And each city has altered it just a little bit, added some of their stuff, that sort of thing in the resolution. So I hope that you will consider that at your next meeting. It's really important. This is a countywide thing, and we really need county support and county involvement. And I think your decisions in terms of how that plan goes are just as important as all the others, because you've got the overview.
Yes.
So,
Well,
answer
Commissioner Hall,
questions.
any preliminary thoughts?
I really appreciate the presentation. I had several questions in mind, but Billy Joe, as the presentation rolled on, I think it all became pretty clear. My questions were answered. I was, as you were speaking, remembering that effort at coordinated water planning many, many years ago. And I remember at the time thinking it was really a shame that it somehow just lost leadership, lost momentum, because water is life, as we say. And I think it's important for the county to be among the partners at the table as this work moves forward.
Yeah, and I imagine Commissioner Jacobson would have a keen interest in this as well. How many resolutions again so far?
We have all except two for the cities. We're just going to the cities. We've
Okay.
got the tribe in additional to the cities. And Lincoln City has had their presentation. They're ready to, their November meeting, they've got a bunch of changes in their meeting schedule. So their November meeting is where they will do the vote on the resolution. And Walport, we haven't gotten to their city council, although I met with a few of them. We've met with their city manager and we'll be bringing it to their council in this next month, so.
Well, would absolutely love to see the variations on each
Yeah, I actually
jurisdiction.
sent you the
Okay, so I've-
copies of those.
I've already got that to dive into, okay? No pun intended there. And then any IGAs yet?
No, no.
Okay.
The city attorney for Toledo is helping to write our IGA for us.
Okay,
And then we'll be bringing those out.
okay.
And he's got the other information that we've done. And yeah, that takes a lawyer.
Okay. So Commissioner Hall and County Council, do we want to bring this back for further discussion or decision? Like what's the best way to proceed with Commissioner Jacobson being out, you think?
So this is a discussion item. I do have the draft resolution. I need to make some changes to it
Yeah, love you.
for the county, and then I would propose bringing it back for a decision action at your November meeting.
I'm comfortable with
Yeah.
that.
Yeah,
And I will say that Commissioner Jacobson was involved when we first came up with this idea.
Hmm.
So
Yeah.
she's had input into what we're doing.
So can we, when we look at this OSU, what is it, artificial intelligence data
kinda
aggregation?
is.
What's going on there?
It's a computer platform.
Yeah.
And they call it a kind of an algorithm. We settled, we're trying to change it from university speak to something that we can all understand. And so we're
Sure.
calling it a digital decision support system.
Okay.
Okay, that's the translation for what it is. But it's a monster, but they can feed all of this information about each possibility
Yeah.
into it. And then it comes out with kind of a rating system, at least the one in Tualatin did. I got to see their data and how that came out. And so it really gives you, in terms of economics and all this, so how it pounds out, how feasible, how viable this particular
And like
possibility would be.
layers for groundwater, all
Yes,
kinds of.
yes, it's
Can
got
we see any,
geology and
can we see it yet? I mean,
no, I mean, they're developing this one. The one from Tualatin, but see, that was just for one river and they were dealing with one problem.
Okay.
And their usage was affecting water temperature. And they were going to have to either quit using it or do something about it. And there was a possibility of a dam. There was a possibility of changing, the watershed in the riparian zone. And there were a whole bunch of different options that they were weighing. And that was a very complex thing. So no, this is going to be developed. That's what they're working on during this initial part as well. And so they've got graduate students and all kinds of people designing this platform.
Okay.
So I can't show it to you yet because that's part of the amazing thing about this and part of why they want to join this project is to have the opportunity to do this. And this is something that once they get that platform developed, that will be transferable to other places in the state and the country and wherever wants to, want to really do future planning for water systems.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's cool, but it's not, that's a big piece of this.
Well, it's important, right? Actually, last week I was in Joshua Tree visiting Steve Wyatt and Laura Anderson, former Local Ocean Seafoods, and went to a farmer's market on Saturday and stopped in at their water district booth and thought, okay, I'm getting work done here in California, but, and similar challenges, right?
Oh,
And thinking ahead and really seeing what's there the best that we can is going to really, really help us in the future, I think. So I'm curious to see this all develop. And I think if we can jump in and help develop that platform, I
Yeah.
think it would probably be good for us.
And we're very fortunate that the university is looking for the grant funding for this first part.
Yeah.
Initially, we had thought, and Dick Anderson was also involved at the very beginning of this
Okay.
and still is. He actually came to both of the OSU meetings, but we thought at the beginning, okay, well, you'll just get a professional study and that'll cost about $55,000. And so we'll get
Mm.
everybody to divvy up for that. Well, OSU's looking at $2 million for 2 years for the grant for
Wow.
this.
Mhm.
So it's a little different, and I'm really pleased that they are optimistic about that
Okay.
opportunity.
Well, thank you.
All right,
Thanks,
thank
Appreciate it.
you. It's great
Okay.
to talk to you, and I hope we'll have this ready for maybe for your next meeting so we can get moving and have you all on board. That'll be great.
Water.
Okay, and if you have questions about changes and things, I'll be happy to help. Okay, thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Billy Joe. All right. Okay, we're jumping to item C in discussion and information. Hey, the reappointment of Lincoln County Surveyor presented by Kristen Yule, County Council.
All right, Commissioners, so under the law, our surveyor is appointed by the Board of Commissioners. It's a 3-year term and it's coming up for expiration in
Mhm.
December. So under ORS 204, the board, if desire, we could reappoint Mr. Adam, who's been serving in that capacity
Mhm.
as Lincoln County Surveyor. If there's consensus, I can bring this back for a decision action item at our next meeting.
I think we
I'm
ought to do
fine with
What
that.
do you think?
Let's do it.
Let's do it. All right. So, yes, bring it back to us and let's get it done.
Okay.
All right. Okay, we're moving into reports. It looks like item A. Quick recess before we get into these updates with Jane. We're live. Okay, we're unmuted. Okay, welcome back. Thanks for letting us take a quick break. Community and Shelter Resource Center update. Jane Romero and our winter shelter coordinator, Chantel Estes. Good morning.
Hi, good
Hi.
morning, everybody. For the record, Jane Romero, Health and Human Services Director.
Chantel Estes, and I am the Winter Shelter Coordinator.
Yeah,
Am
make sure
am
the
I
red.
on? Is that what you're?
Mine's
It
red.
looks, yeah, it's red. Can you not hear? Okay, all right. Really, we're just about ready to begin our new winter sheltering season, and we thought we would come and provide an update. I'm just going to start with some of the logistics. We will be operating November 1st through April 30th in both Newport and Lincoln City. In Newport, because our permanent facility has renovations underway, we are going to initially need to start operating out of First Presbyterian Church, and we operated out of there to a certain degree last year. So we will be operating out of there initially. There are about 2 weeks during which we will have to operate this through the end of this calendar year through Ocean Spray, which is a family center located off of Nice Street with the Housing Authority. The city of Newport held a public meeting on this past Monday, and they approved the use of the facility for that because it is zoned in a residential area. We have secured all of the funding that we need in order to operate this year. Of course, the county puts in a little more than half of the expense associated with operating the shelter, but we have secured funding from the city of Newport, Lincoln City, Depot Bay, Toledo, the IHNCCO, and our funding's rounded out by funding from OHCS. We are in the process, in Lincoln City, we're operating out of the facility that we just closed on, I believe at the last public meeting. And renovations are underway there. The renovations include putting in a handicap accessible bathroom and shower, doing some minor other renovations, adding another egress door and so forth. And we are in the process of getting sprinklers installed. And that's a little bit of a complicated situation because we have to bring in a 2-inch water pipe into the facility. The current water pipe is, I think, 3/4 an inch. That's all underway. People are up there even as I speak, getting it ready, but it will be ready to go November 1st, no matter what. And I don't know, Chantel, do you want to maybe talk a little bit about the operations?
So as we know, last year I had 2 weeks to open up the shelter in Newport, and so that included the policies and procedures. And so over the last 5 months, I've been hard at work updating policies, procedures, building network relationships, getting on board so that we're aligned with state and federal funding, building an HMIS system, which is our homeless management system that will allow us to get funding through HUD, and also building volunteer programs. So I have been busy over that last 5 months, but over the last month, I've been busy getting staff ready. As you recall, last year we had to use overtime HHS staff as well as contracted staff. This year we're a lot ahead of the game, so we were able to pull over our lead staff, which are now county part-time employees, and as we're still using BBSI staffing as well. However, we're going to save a lot of money not being able to, or by bringing those staff over to the county, which we made all of our lead staff. Out of the 7, 5 are coming back from last year. So we are already ahead of the game by knowing how to run the shelter. And we've got so far 15 volunteers, and out of the 15, we got 7 that are returning from last year. So we're excited about that, and we're building the volunteer program by flyers and being out in the community. We've been in the hospitals, grocery stores, just trying to be public and be available to answer questions if there is any, and also recruit volunteers, which, by the way, we are always looking for. So I definitely come to you to see if you will be volunteering again this year. But at any time there is a
Chantel?
process.
Yeah.
You'll be there. Thanks, Claire. Appreciate that. There is a process on the website out of the Community Shelter and Resource Center that they can log on to and do everything they need there. They can fill out the application, they can mail it in, or they can drop it off. So we've streamlined things this year to make it much easier than building the airplane in the air, as we stated. So the other good thing is that we've had from 1 full-time staff, we went to 2 full-time staff, which she was able to complete peer support training and also is going through OHP sister program. So we can apply for insurance a lot quicker when needed to get our guests taken care of. We've also, over the last 2 weeks, we have trained our staff in over 71 hours of training to include de-escalation, harm reduction in Narcan, bloodborne pathogen, CPR, and a full day of mental health first aid. The other thing we added this year is human trafficking. And I wanted to say a great big thank you to Lizzie Martinez, who trained our staff different days over the last 2 weeks. And so 71 hours of training, they're ready to go. We're ready, we're prepared. We will open no matter where it's going to be at. And we'll be able to do it with especially our staff that we are bringing over from last year. It's going to make it a lot easier to know it. Our policies and procedures are updated, and we're ready to rock and roll.
So volunteering now, we could go to the Community and Resource Center section and get it on.
Yes.
Okay.
We just updated all of our forms, our roles, and all of the compliance.
Ken is navigating now if you
Mhm.
want to see
Yes.
how to get it done. Excellent.
There it is,
So
right there.
exciting.
Yes.
Yeah.
A lot has been done in the last 5 months, but a lot was done in 2 weeks. So I'm expected to get at least this much done in 5 weeks. I'm 5 months. Sorry about that.
I do want to just add a few things too. This year, we are adding a healthcare component to both of our shelters. We have a physician, Dr. Caldron, who is volunteering his time to provide just basic primary care contact with individuals in both shelters. The thought would be to kind of create that connection and do a handoff to Coastal Healthcare for ongoing primary care support and addiction treatment and so forth. And also, I do want to thank PIO Ken Lip for working with Chantel to canvass the community in Newport, just knock on doors, talk to people about the shelter operation that we plan here in Newport. And I believe Chantel will be doing the same in Lincoln City in the near future. We have sent out letters to property owners that are within 200 feet of the property that we have in Lincoln City.
Got you. Thank you for that.
And we're also working closely with the college on their nursing program to assist in being able to assist their volunteer, I always call them doc, but physician. And then also we're working with our medical clinic here to offer some opening slots so that we can do the warm off right away the next day. They'll be able to have an appointment.
Yeah. I did the 40 hours of peer training with
Andrea.
yes. And it was just very, very instructive and insightful. And I think it's just going to give her that edge. So
Can't have enough training. I'm all
No,
about
you
training
can't.
our staff up. You got to have the right tools in your toolbox when
Yeah.
you're working this type of field for sure. So it's helpful.
right. You're going to be there.
Of course.
I know.
Yes.
Okay.
When is it your turn?
I know it is my turn. Anything else?
Perfect. Thanksgiving. I got Thanksgiving done. When's next? What about
Okay.
Christmas? No, just kidding. What do you got for us, Casey?
Well, I think one of the most amazing things about this effort has been that 180 so many people have made. When this started out, it was just there was a lot of skepticism, and look what it's become. It's fantastic. So
Well, also, I'm very proud of the fact that 3 of our staff last year became full-time employees through the county.
awesome.
It has made a difference in a lot of people's lives, to include mine as well.
Yeah, I think this would be a great to try and do a presentation at Association of Counties or something like that. You know, I think other counties need to see this work we've done, so.
Yeah, we would be happy to do that. It is, to a certain extent, like a workforce development program for the
Mm.
county.
Yeah,
Really is.
yeah, awesome. Okay,
Thank you.
Rock
We
and roll.
appreciate your
Uh,
support.
Mr. Chair, I have some comments and questions for the
sure, yeah,
presenters,
of
if I may.
course, yeah.
Thank you. So, the metaphor of flying the plane while it's still under construction.
Mm.
And I remember the closing weeks this past spring where I believe you told me the final 12 shelter guests all got permanent placements through the housing.
26. But
26?
6 of them, so 20 of them got housed.
Oh,
26.
so just a little visioning, speculating, but I am thrilled almost beyond words. All the new service linkages. Uh, I mean, I think we did something fantastic. We, the county team, partners, community, but it just sounds like it's going to be going to a whole nother level this winter and the difference that's going to make in people's lives.
It has made a difference. And I mean, it's been a lot of work, to be fair. And I think especially last year, and I've said this to you before, so many departments within the county stepped up to help get this going. We could not have launched this without the efforts of so many people. And it's continuing. I mean, even within HR, David Collier and his staff continue to sit with Chantel through all of these interviews. And other departments are helping. Public Works is helping. They're doing some of the renovations in our Lincoln City property. Probation and Parole is helping with transporting, all of this equipment that we have to move around and so forth. So,
That's wonderful.
yeah.
I'll just do a commercial if I could. For anybody thinking about volunteering, please do it. It is a wonderful, life-affirming, soul-affirming way to make a difference in people's lives. If the guests this winter are anything like the folks last winter, they're kind, and I'll say easily satisfied. They kept telling me what a good cook I am. And I said, well, if you consider opening a bag of frozen lasagnas, putting it in the crock pot, stirring it occasionally, and then serving it when it's warm, then I guess I'm a good cook. But it's soul affirming, and it truly, yeah, I got so much more out of it than I gave it. So I hope anybody within the sound of my voice will think about joining us at least once this winter. I'll riff back to Commissioner Miller's observations before I give up my bully pulpit for the second.
Your
But
PSA.
again, the public perception. I know there's still sadly an enormous amount of misinformation and frankly hate toward the unhoused populations. And unfortunately, we've seen that hate fanned from some corners this year. But as people hear, what? You had an 83-year-old blind man, almost half your guests were older than 50. It's reaching at least some people. They're realizing that the stereotypes they've been fed locally and nationally aren't reality. So
Yeah,
That's right.
that's
yes.
good.
important points.
Yep. Okay. Well,
Well, thank you.
Yes, I
Keep
just wanted
up
to
the
say
good
one more
work.
thing. It was great is when we were out doing our outreach yesterday. That feels like already a week, but we walked into one of the local businesses close by and she didn't even know we were there. And that
Wow.
is a huge, compliment as well to say that, we're there to do a job and we're doing the job the way that they need us to do it. So it was nice to know that we're also not bringing attention to ourselves too.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, you too.
Thank
Okay,
you. Thanks
all
for your
right.
continued support.
You bet.
Always.
All right.
I'm going to stay
We
for a minute.
appreciate, she's staying, and I think Jennifer Beckner is going to join her.
Yeah.
Oh, and more. We're into resource navigation program. And you two can introduce yourselves. We know Jane.
Yeah, well, and I just really want to kind of introduce why the presentation is happening.
Oh,
And
please
then I'm
do,
going to
yes.
step back. But first,
Yes.
I just want to share that about 3 weeks ago, Ryan Knowles stopped in my office. He is our houseless resource navigator. He stopped in my office and he was telling me how many people he has supported in the, I don't know, 6 months,
4 months.
4 months since he's been here. And
Your
then
mic red.
Oh,
and the number of people that he has been able to help achieve housing. And I was just overwhelmed with the success.
Mm.
And it became pretty clear to me that this needed to be shared with you and with the public. And then the other thing before I step back is I just want to give a shout out to Jennifer. I know you all know Jennifer. She's been with us 22 years. And I just want to share with you all of the things she's involved with at the regional and state level so that you are aware of what she's out there doing for the county. So just briefly, with regard to her work with the Oregon Health Authority, she's on the executive committee of the Addictions and Mental Health Planning and Advisory Committee, and she co-chairs one of the subcommittees of that group. She's on the Oregon Health Authority Preventing Drug Overdose Needs Assessment Committee. She's on the State Opioid Response Learning Collaborative, and she is an ambassador for prevention with the Oregon Opioid Settlement Board. At the regional level, she's on the steering committee of the Coast to Cascades Community Wellness Network, chairing the Substance Use Disorder and Mental Health Promotion Subcommittee. She's on the Samaritan STARS Committee for Lynn County at this point. She's on the Substance Use Disorder System Delivery Committee for the IHN CCO, and she's on the Harm Reduction Coalition. So she's really a local expert that we have. And I just wanted you to be aware of that because her work on our behalf is really outstanding. With that, I'm turning it over to you.
Well, thank you.
That's a lot.
That is
It's a lot of stuff.
Oh, my red light.
Red, yes.
Okay. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hello.
Thank you for having me. It's been a while since I've been in front of you. I am here today to talk to you guys not only about the work that Ryan is doing in our community shelter and community resource center, but also give you a brief update on what's happening with substance use disorder here in Lincoln County. I feel like there's been a lot going on, both at the state level and at the federal level that is causing a lot of confusion and misinformation in the community. And I just wanted to give you guys all an update of where we are locally, because I'm very proud of the work that's happening both regionally and here in Lincoln County. We have a lot of great community partners. Some are here today with Phoenix Wellness Centers owners. And I really appreciate all of your support. So next slide, please. So just a bit of history. You guys are all aware of Measure 110. This has been not only in Oregon state news, this has been news on the federal level. You've heard all of the things saying, oh, you know, Oregon decriminalized possession and the measure failed. And I just would like to include my perception of the situation and also backed by data. It's not necessarily true that this has failed. We didn't get a lot of time to get it enacted before we were hit in 2020 with the pandemic. And so what had happened here in Oregon was that the fentanyl crisis started on the East Coast, and it started strong and hard, and we knew that it was happening. But it was something that hadn't reached Oregon until 2020, and it just coincided to create the perfect storm with the passage of Measure 110. And so while it looks like we failed, and there's a lot of attention on the big metropolitan areas like Portland and the Tri-City areas, that's not the case here in Lincoln County. You know, I track all of the data for things like neonatal abstinence syndrome, and that's babies that are born addicted to substances. And I track fatal overdoses and non-fatal overdoses. And I have to tell you that that's very hard data to come by. And I rely on second and third hand information Because if a client decides that they don't want to be transported by law enforcement or first responders, their overdose might not be counted as an overdose. So I'm only able to track things by the amount of Narcan that I purchase and gets distributed throughout the community. Many don't know, but Lincoln County puts a lot of resources behind Narcan. I try and let people know that on average, I spend over $10,000 a month in grant funding that I go out and pursue so that we can have Narcan here in our community. Most of the Narcan that's distributed through community events is provided through Lincoln County. And that's something that not a lot of people are aware of.
Jennifer, so what do you think was the largest catalyst for 110 looking back now? What created that synergy in your mind?
Well, I feel like nationally, because of all of the things that are happening with opioids, there's a lot of focus and attention on this. There are lots of theories about why it got pushed to the forefront so quickly.
Yeah.
Between you and I think it's because a lot of white people were dying. You know, we've seen huge epidemics in the past, and not a lot get attention until somebody important's child dies.
Yeah.
And this epidemic is so huge that there are very few of us that aren't impacted by in some way. I don't know anyone who doesn't know of at least one family or person personally that hasn't been touched by opioid addiction. And I do believe that that's why, Keith.
Okay, thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So after this, Senate Bill 755 was passed, and what that did, can you please, yes. So what that did is that established the Oversight and Accountability Council, and this is the group that oversees the Measure 110 funding, and their goal is to create what's called behavioral health networks in each of the 36 counties in the state of Oregon and all 9 federally recognized tribes of Oregon. The main focus is to really look at communities that have been disproportionately affected by the rates of incarceration. I volunteer at the federal penitentiary, and I can tell you that you can walk down the halls and see I won't say discrimination, but there's definitely a higher number of people of color than anyone else when it comes to drug-related crime. Next slide, please. So each burn must include the following: for substance use disorder screening and assessments, treatment plans, low barrier SUD treatment. And by low barrier, it means that, you know, we know that recovery is a continuum. I like to think of it kind of as a rainbow. You know, we've got people that are on one end just wanting to use more safely. They're not committed to being completely abstinent yet. And on the very other end, you've got somebody who's completely abstinent. You know, they've been through recovery. That's their lifestyle choice. And then on your road to recovery, you can fall anywhere on that continuum at any time. You know, things like relapse are a very real issue and a part of living in recovery. So each burn must include those services that are listed: housing services, harm reduction, supported employment. Next slide, please. So our current burn partners include Phoenix Wellness Center. They are contracted with OHA to provide harm reduction. They do treatment, assessments, and supported employment. Chance, which is just across the street from the courthouse here, is a peer mentoring organization that's been in Lincoln County for quite some time. And they are contracted with the OHA to provide the peer mentoring support of the Behavioral Health Resource Network. We have Faith, Hope, and Charity, and this is a new group to Lincoln County. And this is a group that is run by people of color for people of color. And they are headquartered in Corvallis, and they do come over here weekly to meet with clients when they get referrals. They do a lot of work with clients that are housed at Coastal Phoenix Rising in Lincoln City. The state has contracted with CTSI. We included the tribe in our burn proposal to provide harm reduction services, even though they received separate burn funding for the tribe. We believe that having the tribal harm reduction partners is essential to the success of our program. And so we've got the tribe's harm reduction program as part of our burn. Community Services Consortium was contracted to do the supported employment piece. And they do all kinds of things like help with resume building, finding jobs, helping coach for interviews, things like that. Northwest Coastal Housing was contracted to provide beds for substance use disorder clients that are involved with the burn. And so I believe they are contracted to provide 13 beds up at Coastal Phoenix Rising, located in Lincoln City. In Lincoln County HHS was a partner. We wrote the proposal for all of the partners in one of the burns. It was a partnership of myself and some leaders from other programs, specifically Samaritan Health Systems. Lincoln County Health and Human Services is contracted to coordinate the burn, and also for medicated assisted treatment. That's a program that many people aren't aware that we have. It's called Building Bridges, and it's through our community health center. And we have harm reduction. Samaritan Health Systems was contracted to provide peer support in the emergency departments and assessments. And why this is so important to have peer support in the emergency departments is because when people come into these facilities with having an overdose, there's so much stigma that's attached to having a substance use disorder. And it's very traumatizing for those clients to have to retell their stories over and over and over again. And when they sometimes are treated like they're there, as drug-seeking behaviors or whatnot, there can be a lot of discrimination. And so those peers that are in those emergency departments are trained to handle these situations so that we're not traumatizing overdose victims over and over again. Next slide, please. Yes.
Jen, on that one there, do we, across Oregon, are peer support and other, EDs prevalent in your mind?
So that's something that I don't have a lot of information on,
interesting,
Commissioner
though.
Miller. I do know that it is best practice, and a lot of emergency departments are starting a lot more training with their emergency department physicians and staff. One thing that's happening, and I do believe this started at the federal level that I'm very excited about, is that they are working on policies and procedures right now for Samaritan emergency departments. And this has happened at other EDs across the state, across the nation, for emergency physicians to be able to start medicated assisted treatment right there in the emergency room. And why that's significant is because when people are ready to go into treatment, they're ready right now.
Yeah.
They can't wait 48 hours. They can't wait 2 weeks and sometimes months to get into any kind of a treatment program. And so this is a huge change that I'm very excited about. And then for us, having those peer mentors in those departments, they can do a warm handoff straight from the emergency department attending physician to one of our treatment providers. And again, that helps with the stigma. It helps with just cutting out all of the red tape for somebody who's seeking services.
Yeah. And, when I was up at the symposium, it just was pretty shocking to see how hard it is to break through. It's just, fentanyl is just so bad. Yeah.
Absolutely, but you'd be surprised. So
Okay.
there's, of course, fentanyl is in the national spotlight right now.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, here in Lincoln County, our two biggest issues are alcohol and methamphetamine. We did great work here in Lincoln County when it came to eliminating meth labs in homes. And, we were having quite the issue earlier in my career. I won't date myself, but it's been a while. So really, alcohol and methamphetamine are our two biggest issues. But right now, there's a lot of financial support behind opioids for many reasons. So Lincoln County Health and Human Services was funded to do burn coordination, and that's what I do currently. And it's my job to to work on, I watch lots of legislation happening. I participate in lots of state groups, and I pursue any funding that I can to bring resources to our community. I mentioned the amounts of money that I spend monthly in Narcan. And this is significant because it's just been recently that the state's been helping provide Narcan through the clearinghouse through Oregon Health Authority. But before then, there wasn't any means of getting it. And it was very expensive at $157 a dose.
Wow.
And so when we got fentanyl in Lincoln County, in the state, actually, we discovered that it's taking up to 7 doses of Narcan out in the field to stabilize patients enough to get them to an emergency department. So every grant opportunity that I pursued, I would always make sure to include at least $10,000 for Narcan for Lincoln County.
So why isn't Narcan in higher doses?
So it is now.
Okay.
It is now. There is a new kind of higher dose Narcan that's
Okay.
out. It's 8 milligrams versus the 4. It's controversial to use it because of the high dosage. It will put somebody into immediate withdrawals.
Oh,
And that makes it very uncomfortable for the person experiencing the overdose.
okay.
And it can increase the risk of overdosing again. Because the way that Narcan works is, and the way that opioids work is, we have all of these opioid receptors in our brains. And what happens is you ingest, a substance that includes opioid, or that has opioids in it. And the opioids stick to those receptors. And the Narcan, once it's administered, it comes in and it has a stronger attraction to those receptors, and it kicks the opioids off of the receptors, and that gives us time to stabilize the patient and get them breathing again. The problem is those opioids in the system don't disappear; they're still there. So when the Narcan wears off and leaves that receptor, the opioid that's in their system comes back. But because they had that time where they felt that they were in withdrawal, they might use again. So now they have double the amount of opioid in their system, and that increases rates of fatal overdose.
Okay.
So we do have the higher dose Narcan, or it's Narcan available. It's not Narcan. There's another name brand. It's naloxone is the drug. So we do have that available through our harm reduction programs, but it's not something that I encourage dispensing frivolously.
Right.
Especially to community groups that are just learning about Narcan and how it works. 2 other programs that were funded for Lincoln County Health and Human Services under the Behavioral Health Resource Networks were our Bridges to Recovery Medicated Assisted Treatment Program. And this is a program that I'm very proud of. This took a lot of effort to get started here in Lincoln County, and we'll be talking a little bit about that program a little bit later. The other program that we were able to support through our Lincoln County burn funding was our harm reduction team. And the piece of that I'm most excited about is that we were able to add a nursing position to our team. And what is significant about that is that there are 5 different entities providing harm reduction here in Lincoln County, but none of them had access to medical care. So we have harm reduction workers that are going out into the community. They're helping do education. They're doing syringe exchange, all of the needed aspects of harm reduction. But there was nobody to do wound care. And we noticed that that's a huge issue when it comes to people who are using drugs intravenously. So we do have a nurse position right now, and I'm working on many things for that position. It is my hope one day that she will be able to go out with our harm reduction team and actually take Suboxone, which is the medication that they use in medicated assisted treatment programs, out into the community for clients that are already engaged in a treatment program, but maybe live too remotely to get in for regular appointments. We have fixed harm reduction sites throughout the community. They go up to Rose Lodge, Otis, a lot of remote areas that people don't get to. They go out into a lot of camps where houseless individuals are congregating. And so this nurse position was the best thing possible, in my opinion, to happen for our harm reduction team.
Did they have to have wound care certification in addition to the RN, or?
That wasn't a requirement, but
Okay.
she has gone through wound care training, and I know that there's another training coming up that she'll be attending. One aspect of this that I'm really happy about is our nurse conducts monthly meetings with all team members from every harm reduction team throughout the county. And it's optional to attend. Obviously, we don't have any contractual obligations with any of those partners, but she's there to meet with our frontline workers to hear about problems that they're experiencing. And let's say that the harm reduction team from Reconnections Counseling has seen someone with a wound that needs, some attention. She can get a referral from them right there and go out with their team to get that situation addressed. And what this does is this cuts down on a lot of very expensive hospitalizations from wound infections that can turn into pericarditis infections, and that's the lining of the heart. Those hospitalizations can take months to recover for, and that's a drain on taxpayer resources. And so this is a very wonderful aspect of our harm reduction team that I'm very excited was able to be added. Thankfully, because of the burn funding and the OAC. Next slide, please.
Mr. Chair,
Yeah.
I know Jennifer's on a roll, but a question has popped into my head a couple of minutes ago that I would really like to ask before it flies back out my other ear or something. It's good to see you, Jennifer. You know, we've worked together off and on from my very beginning times here, and this is just an amazing presentation, so many resources we've got here, so many partnerships, and now we're getting one more new tool in the tool box, the behavioral health deflection grant. Have you been involved at all with the subcommittee that was developing the proposal and plan for that program?
So I have a lot of history with House Bill 4002. And I wondered if you guys would ask about that because it has been in the news a lot. And there are a lot of people that are following everything that's happening with the deflection program right now. And yes, to answer your question, I have been involved way before the planning started. County Administrator Tim Johnson and I were asked to participate in a meeting of the Association of Counties. They put together an informational meeting about House Bill 4002 and the new requirements for each community to have a deflection program. At that time, I voiced my concerns. I was worried that there wasn't going to be enough resources allocated for the program to make a substantial impact. And because, in my opinion, lots of great things come out of the state legislature, but they're not always funded adequately. And it works wonderful in larger, urban areas that have lots of, service providers. But when you're in a rural community like ours, it takes all hands on deck to make anything successful. And we have a lot of new, smaller programs in our community that are running on their kindness and not necessarily being reimbursed for the services that they're providing. And I am very fearful that some of those services will be eliminated in time if they're not adequately funded as we go. And it makes me nervous to agree to do things with the state before I know the real plan. Planning is everything. And I when I started my career, I thought, this is just more bureaucratic red tape, but it really isn't. There's a reason that we do things the way that we do. So yes, in September of 2023, I met with Tim Johnson and AOC to discuss that. That bill was on the top, on every agenda of most meetings that I have participated at the state level. There's been a lot of discussion about it. I was not included in the deflection planning process until very late in the process. I believe that I was asked to participate in August, and most of the decisions had been made by that time.
And you're talking about state or locally?
Locally.
There?
So I met with I met with you, Claire, to talk about substance use disorder and what we had going. And I met with Commissioner Miller before the team was formed for the deflection program. And I talked about substance use disorder and what was happening. And I gave him my opinion of what was coming with House Bill 4002 at the time. It is my belief that all of these bills The intention was to work together and to dovetail one another so that we can have a comprehensive system to wrap care around each client that we're serving. We can't work on one issue without clearing up another. It's like taking a sick fish out of a dirty fish bowl, taking them to the vet, getting them well, and then throwing them back in the dirty fish bowl and expecting them to be successful. That's not the way this is going to work. We have to get ahead of the curve. And this is something that this is my soapbox, Claire. Prevention, prevention, prevention. We need to get upstream. We can't keep running behind the program or behind the problem and throwing money at it, expecting it to resolve itself. This is the first time in my career that I feel like we finally have all of the pieces of the puzzle coming together. Finally, we have all of these things that are supposed to be working in tandem and together to build a comprehensive system. And that's my plan for this community.
Mr. Chair, if I may briefly.
Yeah.
Yes, I remember I was the last chair of the Governor's Council on Alcohol and Drug Programs. And one line in our final report to the governor and legislature has always stuck with me, and it concerns the importance of prevention. And it said, I'm sure the numbers changed, but probably not for the better, that as a state, we only spend $1 on prevention for every $57 we were spending shoveling up the wreckage of addiction.
That's correct.
Heartbreaking, yeah.
Absolutely. So our program objectives are to increase substance use treatment and support services. We're not going to get ahead of it until we get there. Treatment works and people recover. This can happen. We want to improve access to care. We're trying to empower our patients and guide them towards being self-sufficient. We're trying to enhance housing, access to employment, healthcare, and education, and to work on collaboration with community partners. It's my goal to have our community partners educated enough to be advocates for themselves, so that they can advocate for state and federal contracts to bring more resources here to Lincoln County, and so that we can spread the resources that we do have equitably throughout all treatment providers in Lincoln County. And so that's a personal goal as well. Next slide, please. So I wanted to talk about other funding opportunities just to give you an idea of why the planning is so important. So I mentioned the Bridges to Recovery plan, or medicated assisted treatment program that we have here locally. That was started with a HRSA grant for rural communities. It's an opioid response program grant, and it was $1 million for a 3-year project. And at the beginning of that project, we didn't have a plan in place. And we all got together, a lot of treatment providers. We had a regional group that discussed what was happening here in Lincoln County. We reviewed the benchmarks that we had available at the time, and we decided that we needed to bring funding here to help support treatment programs in our community. And when we got started, we realized that we only had one provider for medicated assisted treatment at the time. So here we were, we had $1 million coming to our community to do something, to support something that didn't even exist.
About what year?
Oh my goodness, I think that was 2017 that started. 2017.
Okay.
So we were able to keep our medicated assisted treatment program running through grants. That's a great deal of what I do is seek funding to help support substance use disorder in our community. And there are also a lot of different federal addictions and mental health grants that come out. That group that Jane mentioned that I am on, the Addictions and Mental Health Council for the state of Oregon. One of our main objective is to monitor the federal mental health and behavioral health and addictions federal block grant that comes. And that's the grant that provides the money that comes to counties to pay for treatment and prevention. It's an allocation that comes yearly. It's something that we don't have to compete for. The state competes on our behalf, and then allocates the money through a funding formula for each community. I also pursue lots of private foundation grants to support this. Next slide, please. And what I'm excited about is this is a framework for substance use disorder prevention and treatment that was released when all the planning was happening around the opioid settlement. And this was a framework that was put together by the Alcohol and Drug Policy Commission. And I have a lot of really great partners on that commission and who have worked in this field for years and have credentials like you wouldn't believe. And they are the best minds coming together to put together a plan. And these are the things that they would like us to focus on while we're doing our SUD planning for our communities. And all of those things are, these are the pieces of the puzzle that I mentioned that are coming together. There's funding available for lots of these different areas, and I'm starting to see it come together. Next slide, please. So for the future of SUD services here in Lincoln County, I just wanted to let you know what's happening. I'm working on putting together a strategic plan. I want a living plan in place. This used to be a requirement in order to get block grant funding from the state. That requirement hasn't been enforced for quite a while, probably since the pandemic, and everybody else, everybody was preoccupied with working on that. But this is a requirement that's going to be enforced again soon. And communities won't be able to get their letter of approval to operate treatment programs without a county community plan in place. And so I'd like to get ahead of the curve and get ours done. And I also need it to do the work that I do. This helps me collect data that I need in order to pursue federal grants and foundation grants. So we have recently contracted with a outside consultant, and her group is coming in to help me get this plan started. And the first step in that is we will be holding focus groups throughout the community. So down in Waldport, in Yachats, Otis, I want us to be everywhere. And that's that part of my hope with sharing this information is that community members, when they see announcements for those focus groups, they know what it's about. And if they have an interest in this, they get there so we can hear their voices. That information will be rolled up and presented to a group of providers and community leaders at a substance use disorder summit that I'm hoping to hold sometime in December. And we'll come together then, look at the priorities that the community set and the data to see if we have data that supports that. Because just sometimes community has perceptions of a problem that might not really be the problem, kind of like me pursuing a grant for treatment when we didn't have treatment programs to support in the first place. So we'll bring that data and the prioritized community priorities to the group of leaders and have them look at it and prioritize. We'll talk about what's existing here in the community at the time and what's needed. So I'm very excited for this to get started. I had hoped that the next round of Behavioral Health Resource Network burn funding grants wasn't going to be out until January when the legislature reconvened. But things don't happen at the state level like you anticipate them happening. And that request for proposals was pushed out early. And it was due 2 weeks ago. And the decisions will be made in November. That being said, Lincoln County is facing an $800,000 reduction each year for 4 years. And that's quite significant for a community like ours. And the reason for that is the Oregon Accountability Council was faced with a new funding formula that worked well for some communities and not so well for other communities. And unfortunately, we came out in the bottom half. An example of that is Benton County received an increase in theirs. But if you look at benchmarks, Benton County is #1 in almost everything good and last in everything bad. Unlike Lincoln County, who always ranks right at the top for being in need of services, things like treatment. We have a lot of kids in care. And if you looked at things at a per capita, like actual people in treatment, our numbers are a lot higher than Benton County. But unfortunately, part of this funding formula change was based on total population of the communities. So you look at a rural community like ours, and we're never going to be able to compete with Multnomah County or even Benton County. And so this is something that I am concerned about. And I'm hoping that if we have this plan in place, we'll know then which services faced cuts to their programs. And this will give us a better idea of where to start when pursuing additional resources for our community. We want to support our providers so that we can continue at least at the current service levels that we have, and ideally increase those. The whole idea behind this is to make access to treatment easier for individuals, not harder. Next slide, please. So some successes I just wanted to touch base on really quickly was the Bridges to Recovery program. This has been phenomenal to have located with our community health center. We currently have 48 clients that are engaged in services. 17 of those clients are also engaged with behavioral health, so they're getting their behavioral health needs met. And remember, this program is housed within primary care. So this is kind of the idea behind the all-encompassing, wrapping services around people. We have, as you're aware, a pharmacy on site, so they can, they have someone, a staff person, to walk with them down to the pharmacy if they need that advocate and they need somebody to be their voice. We have those things available. Part of the Bridges to Recovery program is a case manager. And our case manager, Andrew Ramirez, tracks every patient in our program. If he hasn't heard from them in a couple of weeks, he calls them. If he can't reach them, he goes out and he finds them. And it's his job to stay on top of all of their medical appointments, all of their behavioral health needs. It truly is an all-encompassing program. And as I mentioned before, the Lincoln County Harm Reduction Program, one piece of this that I was super excited about is that having that nurse is helping us. As you're aware, we're having a huge shortage nationwide of healthcare providers. Nurses, we've had to change a lot of our job descriptions to help us, work with the limited number of professionals that we have in our community. And the jail also struggles with this at times. And it was something that I wasn't aware of until we were in some meetings. And I learned that they were struggling sometimes with their medicated assisted treatment program or Narcan education, things like that. And so we were able to form a partnership, and our harm reduction nurse, when able, can go to the jail and help do those injections if they don't have a nurse on duty at the time when it's needed. And so that partnership has just been phenomenal. And having her there has identified further problems that need to be worked on. For example, at this time, when people are in custody, they lose their coverage of OHP and medical insurance.
Right.
And it's there that we're discovering that a lot of them are coming in and testing positive for things like Hep C and HIV. And treatment for those diseases is very expensive. It takes 3 rounds of medication to treat Hep C. Each one of those rounds is $2,000. And as you're aware, that comes out of your general fund. And so this is an area that's been highlighted for me as something of concern. And that's something that I will be looking for resources for in the future, because I believe that needs to happen. I do know that in a few years, our laws are changing, and that won't happen again. And I do know that this jail is now receiving additional funding to support the medicated assisted treatment program, which is phenomenal. That hadn't happened in the past. And so this is very exciting news. And the other success that I'm really proud of is the CSRC Resource Navigation Program. The CSRC is our Community Shelter and Resource Center, our winter shelter program that Chantel and Jane discussed earlier. Next slide, please. So the basis of our resource navigation program is based on Maslow's hierarchy of needs. And you'll notice that the very foundation of that is built on physiological needs. We're talking food, water, shelter, clothing, sleep. And we know that people can't think about their health care or their mental health care or anything else unless those needs are met first. And when this program was created, we have some really amazing things that are coming out of it. Ryan Knowles is our current CSRC Resource Navigator, one of them. I have 2 positions. We're currently working to fill the second. When the winter shelters open, Ryan will be working out of the Newport location, and the second position will be working out of our North County location. They will be working some evening hours in those facilities to help connect our houseless individuals to resources. My biggest goal with that, of course, is always going to be to help decrease the number of high utilizers of things like the county jail and the emergency departments. And so what Ryan does is he helps people get connected to resources. I like to think of him in triage as the Band-Aid, you know, until we can hand him off to the EMTs to get him to the physicians that can handle the problem. He's the Band-Aid. He's what stops the bleeding immediately and allows for handoff to larger services. Next slide, please. So services that he can offer is he's a OHP assister. He can help people get signed up for OHP. He is a linkage to care. He has contacts in behavioral health, primary care, and treatment that he can help people with. He can help with obtaining things like identification, driver's license, birth certificates. And he makes a lot of referrals to burn partners and receives referrals from burn partners. He can help with transporting clients to medical appointments, you know, whatever they need to be successful. There are so many needs that seem so trivial to us that, you know, we wouldn't think that that's the one thing that made it successful. You know, we recently paid for the removal of an Intoxilock device for a car. And that individual needed that, and his court fines paid before he could get employment. And that was the one thing standing in his way, you know, and it just seemed so mind-blowing to me that that's all he needed to be successful. And he also does a lot of work with our harm reduction team. Next slide, please. So we have a lot of community partnerships and collaboration. We have great partnerships with law enforcement, county and city leadership, community members, service providers, and we work really closely with the winter shelter staff. Next slide, please. How you can help. I know Chantel talked about this. We need volunteers at that shelter. It doesn't run by itself. Donation drives like Undies Sundays. And what that is, I loved this. Back when, Claire, you remember when we were working on Project Homeless Connect in the first 10-year plan to end homelessness in Lincoln County. A lot of churches would take on donation drives and they'd call them Undies Sundays. And they would do donations for new socks and new underwear. And those are always huge needs for clients of our shelter. Holding fundraising events. You know, we have people that are working on their Eagle Scout awards or things like that that need community projects. We have seniors in high school that need community service hours. Participate in the events like that. Help us with fundraising. And again, you know, community forums. If you have some concerns about what's happening around substance use disorder in your community, have your voice be heard. You know, we see a lot of negative information and misinformation on social media, and you have a lot of armchair experts that are weighing in on these topics that don't have any evidence backing them up or the whole picture. So come to one of these forums, learn what's happening, find out what's available, and help us identify true barriers so that we can work on solutions for our community. And be an advocate. You know, I tell people this all the time, but you wouldn't hesitate to go to a hospital if you were experiencing breast cancer or a broken limb. Yeah. And you don't think anything of your neighbors that are dealing with that. You know, and as a matter of fact, we take a casserole over to our neighbor when they're newly diagnosed with some disease. But when we have community members that are dealing with substance use disorder, many people look away. And we are the reason there's a stigma around addiction. And that needs to end. So educate yourself and be advocates for our community members. I have Ryan here today because I wanted to just briefly touch on that Maslow's hierarchy of needs. With the work that Ryan's done, he has he's discovered issues that we didn't know were issues. Ryan, would you like to talk about your experience with the one client?
Yes. So I most recently I had a client who was involved in through code enforcement task force. They were trying to clean up a property. Well, she had been for a year living in a tent on the property.
Mm.
She had stage 4 lymphoma. She had no contact with medical. She had just given up hope and basically felt like that this was going to be where she ended her life, was in a tent. And I went out with her, met with her, communicated to her what I could help her with and what we could do together to get her to a better area in her life. And with encouragement and help, now she is housed in our hotel program. She is re-engaged with all of her physicians. She is engaged in treatment for SUD issues that she had in the past because of her medical concerns. And she's just come back to life. I mean, you can just see just well up in her, you know. She's encouraging. I'm personally taking what I do with these clients in these special situations is I walk them through the entire process. So I will pick them up, take them, engage them in the treatment, take them to a hotel, then follow up with their services. So I will make sure they make their doctor's appointments. I will take them to their counseling sessions. I'll take them to UAs, whatever I got to do to help them get that little bit to succeed. And what I've seen in this pattern, this model is that these people are they're flourishing. They felt like they had no hope and that no one cared anymore. That it was just hopeless, you know.
Mhm.
But they're coming back to life and they're seeing that there's support and people are actually engaging with them again in the community and advocating for them. And it's just been a beautiful experience.
Yeah.
And I think that with this type of model, it could continue to see people just come out of this and out of addiction and out of behavioral health issues and all these different areas of life into something better.
Ryan, when you have an encounter, what's the variation between getting someone to make that leap the first time versus needing to see them 5 times? What's the variation for you?
So for Ryan, like I said, he's the first step, the Band-Aid.
Yes.
So
He's good.
and people have every right to decline our services.
Yeah.
If they decline, he moves on to the next case.
Oh, okay.
Because when they're
Oh, okay.
when they are very serious clients like that, we try to hand them off to a larger organization that can do that closer case management. Like the client that he's discussing right now, we were able to get her connected to a primary care physician and to an oncology team. And now she's being treated for her lymphoma. You know, those are things that she couldn't even think of when she's sleeping in a tent in the rain. You know, and it's logical, yet it's so confusing for a lot to understand that nobody's thinking about preventative care while they're worried about where they're going to get their next meal. And so this has just been phenomenal. I wanted to add one other quick story. I try to stay away from direct service as much as possible. My job is to bring the resources in. I know some stories, but I don't want to know them all, or I couldn't do the job that I do. But recently, Ryan was out of the office and I happened to be in his chair and a client came in bringing donuts to thank him for the services that he provided. And I learned from that client that he had been in our winter shelter program and he had an addiction issue. And he was able to be, the hotel program that Ryan mentioned isn't really a hotel program, so to speak. But I do have funding that can pay for hotel rooms for people who need treatment. Because as we're aware, people are waiting for beds, for treatment beds. And some of our local programs require up to 12 weeks of clean UAs in order to access those beds. Well, 12 weeks is a long time to be on the streets to try and refrain from using substances when you're freezing and you don't have anything to eat. And so for those cases, I have flexible spending funds that I can use to pay for hotel rooms for that interim time to get them into the larger programs that they need to be in. And this individual was able to utilize the program. He was there for 12 weeks. He stepped up to the larger transitional housing program. And I just was reading the community or the county connection, the newsletter that goes out to county employees. He's recently been hired by the Lincoln County Juvenile Department as a full-time employee. It blew my mind that in less than 3 months, this individual went from being completely houseless to that he's now living in a life of recovery, and he has a full-time job with real family wages and benefits. How incredible is that? Do you know, I often tell this story, but I always think of our work as the starfish story. I don't know if you're all, familiar with it. The guy that's walking along the beach, picking up starfish and throwing them back in the water, and the other guy comes up and he says, "Why are you doing that? There's so many, you're never gonna make a difference." And the guy picks up another starfish, throws it in the ocean, and he says, "What made a difference to that one?" And that's my goal. If I can work to change one life, we're successful at what we're doing, because that one life will go on and save many. We're cleaning the fishbowl one step at a time. And I believe in the work that we're doing. I'm very excited about what's happening in our community, and I hope to keep pushing this forward. Next slide, please. So if you have any questions, please reach out to me. Again, I'm Jennifer Beckner. That's my email address. To make referrals to our navigators, you can use that link there. I apologize. We have a QR code that's in the works right now. I have a lot of things that are in the works right now. Unfortunately, a lot of that work had to be put on hold while I did our last burn application quickly. And that phone number right there is for our shelter hotline, and referrals can be left there for Ryan. I will send out more information and get it posted to our county website when it's available, because this is an amazing resource that our community needs to be aware of, and it wouldn't be possible without your leadership. I am so happy with our leadership right now. After being with Lincoln County for 22 years, I have to say that this has been the easiest time to do my job. It's a huge job, but what makes it easier is to have the leadership that we have, to have you guys at these tables, and to have you guys calling me in to ask the questions. I have never felt more understood, and I have never felt that we've had leadership that understands this problem so well, because this is an issue, and it's one that we can work on together to make our community better. So thank you.
Well, and thanks for tying it together a bit last night out in Siletz too, right? Because
Right.
like you say, there's so much misconception. And so that was helpful for you to lay some of it out.
Yes,
Great presentations. Thank you.
thank you.
Thanks so much.
Good work out there. You will be back. Okay. All right. Where are we, folks? It's 12:21. I have nothing to report. Anything for you?
I don't have anything to report either.
I mean, I guess I would mention Administrator Johnson and I were out at Siletz Community Leaders Meeting last night. It was a great discussion. Quite the array of individuals. So good to see you out there, Administrator Johnson, and lots of people from our team. So with nothing else, let's look ahead just briefly at the next meetings. And I lost it, so I'm going to jump to this one. You will see or can join us again Wednesday, November 6th and November 13th. And with nothing else, we are adjourned. Thank you, everyone.